I'd like to thank our employees. We've built a great company that's lasted for 50 years, and we've only done that based on having the best employees out there, and I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your dedication over the years.
We understand the value of our employees' families. We understand the sacrifice those families have made. From the Willard family to all of those families of our employees, thank you very much for your 5 decades of support.
I'd like to thank all of our customers, who are sometimes second-generation customers, for trusting us with their crops over the years. It's always been our objective to put the right product in the right place at the right time, so much better than average yields are achieved.
My siblings and I all grew up working on the farm. We liked being on the farm. We loved the machinery. We loved being with my father.
I've done this for 40 years now. I often think about that now that I'm getting in my mid-60s, and I'm saying, well, I wonder how much longer I'm going to do this. And I actually used to say, well, I'm waiting for my father to retire so I know what retirement age is, but he's taken it kind of to the point of being ridiculous now, so I've quit saying that.
D. Willard has always marched to a different beat. He knows how to adapt and change, and he knows about success. His business, Willard Agri-Service, is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. And a large part of that longevity is because his company combined cutting-edge technology with old-fashioned customer service and values. Willard Agri-Service is a reflection of the man who founded it and the sons who continue his legacy.
He sees things, he sees opportunities, and he grasps them and goes from there. He's a good businessman, a good person, good human being.
Young D. Willard grew up in the heart of the Depression in rural Poolesville, Maryland.
Well, I always loved the farm, and operations that went on the farm were always fascinating, interesting to me. And I started probably when I was 12 years old. Every summer I would work on farms. We had a family farm that had several owners, and nobody was doing anything with it. I'd saved up $2,250 working in the grocery store that I had when I graduated, so I decided I'd plant some corn. So my father was always talking about, you know, you never borrow money. And so I went over to Leesburg and bought this combine, and it was $1,650. Well, I only had $1,350 in the bank, but I wrote him out a check for $1,650, and I came home, told my aunt I needed to borrow about $400 from her because I knew I needed money to buy a little fuel. And she loaned me the $400 and covered the check, and that's how I got started. I did not do it for money. I do it because I love to be out there and part of the operation and what was going on.
You know, this business has been really successful, and it's not all because of my brother, myself, or my father. We've got some really good people in this business that have staked their life's work into this business.
It's the only business I know of that where it's trust. It's a trusting relationship. And our business from the supplier level all the way down the supply chain to the grower level is done on a handshake. So either my brother or I can pick the phone up and we can verbally order hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fertilizer on a handshake.
We run this business like it's a big family.
I think I'm more of a family than I am an employee. My wife passed away 5.5 years ago, and the Willards were excellent. You know, they just let me take the time I needed to deal with that. After the funeral, they set me up with a office at my house because I'm still raising 2 children home. So Not very many employers would do that.
In its 5 decades of existence, the Willard Agri-Service family has experienced consistently steady growth, but only when the timing was right.
The vision to be in the right place at the right time. That is really pretty much how almost every business succeeds. That's how Microsoft succeeded, that's how Marriott succeeded, and that's how D. Willard has succeeded. It's a gift. Some people have it, some people don't.
I took in $1,250 with that combine the next 2 weeks, so I was able to pay my aunt back pretty quick, and I thanked her.
After 20 years of custom farming, D. Willard felt the time was right for him to seed his own business.
I read in a farm magazine, if you want to borrow money from the bank, you need to have a business plan. So I wrote up this business plan and went over to Damascus, where there was a small community bank. Told the teller I'd like to borrow $50,000, and I said, I have this business plan. And he said, well, it's got to go before the board. And I said, well, you want to give them my business plan? He said, no, they're not going to loan you money anyway. You don't need the business plan. So about 3 days later, he called me up and said, loan's approved. And I said, well, do I, you need my business plan? He said, no, they said you know what to do with the money. I thought about it later. I said, how did that happen? And I didn't realize at the time, the board was about 9 people, I think, and 7 of them knew me personally. And so that's why the loan was made. And that would never happen today.
We're blessed to have the culture that he created and the foundation he created and the focus he created to continue to build on. I don't think I could go to another organization and somehow turn them into a Willard Agri-Service. I think you'd have to start from scratch just like D. Willard did.
They love what they do. They absolutely love it, and they love the challenge, they love the rewards of being successful as a farmer.
In 1970, D. would launch Willard Chemical Company. This company would center around a fledgling new technology, liquid fertilizer. Being at the forefront of agricultural technology would become a staple of how the company would run.
Ordered the fertilizer mixer and some equipment and whatnot, and starting to put stuff together, and kept looking at my business plan, and all of a sudden I realized $50,000 wasn't going to get this job done. I didn't want to be run back and forth to Damascus Bank, and opened a checking account in Frederick, and I opened it at a bank where I knew one person. His name was Nevin Baker. I said, Nevin, I don't know if you knew it or not, I have a checking account at your bank. And he said, oh yeah, I know it. He said, I get a list of all new customers. And I said, well, Nevin, I need to borrow $25,000. And I said, you're coming on pretty strong, aren't you? I said, Nevin, you gonna loan me a day of money or not? And he said, yeah, I'll loan it to you.
D has been very, very innovative and proactive with fluid fertilizers, starting from, back in the late 60s. They were doing some things with dry fertilizers, converting them into liquids, and D was right in the middle of that with phosphoric acid and converting that to liquid product. And what we were trying to do is come up with a product that every drop is the same.
At first, Willard's customers were skeptical about the new technology.
The biggest challenges, I think, were to get them to realize that liquid would work just as well as dry when put on the ground. In fact, it would work a little better because it was a homogeneous mix, and every square inch of the ground, the soil, would get the same rate of fertilizer.
The liquid fertilizer was not only more efficient, it was also more environmentally friendly.
We try to manage every drop of fertilizer that comes onto the premises, and anything that leaves the premise we want to have controlled. In other words, we don't want it to leave going down a ditch or into a stream, or which would ultimately go to the Chesapeake Bay.
I probably was able to plant at least 4 times as much as if I would have had to do it conventionally. Instead of making 4 or 5 trips over the field, it was all done. You sprayed your field with fertilizer and chemicals and planted it, and that was it then until harvest time.
Willard Chemical Company would change its name to Willard Agri-Service. But it would never change its goal, to help their customers succeed.
I suspect that Dee enjoyed his work so much that he never really thought of how big it was going to get. But he started off here in Frederick. It was well accepted. Then he moved out to Marion and Mount Airy, and then to the Eastern Shore. You know, there are a lot of people that are uptight for 60 or 80 hours. Dee was laid back for 60 or 80 hours. In consequence, the 60 or 80 hours went faster.
Well, he's a different kind of a nice guy. He's a nice guy as long as you're doing your job. If you don't do your job, he can get a little tougher. He doesn't believe in yelling and shouting and any kind of theatrics. He just is quietly effective, what I call a lifestyle logic. Like if you're not showing up at work on time, he just talks to you about how you need to get there when the door opens in the morning. It's a great leadership trait.
Farmers and the associations we have in agriculture are a unique group, a special breed of individuals, a special breed of people.
I do test plots on my own of stuff that I want to try, but anything that they promote, there's at least 3 years bare minimum of data that they collect before they ever push anything. It's not like it's voodoo work. When they say the stuff works, it does work.
You gotta love farming to be a farmer. I have farmed all my life. I grew into it. I don't know how to do much else because I just love it. You gotta love it to do it. You gotta be several things. You gotta be a banker, you gotta be a public relations person, you gotta be in accounting, you gotta be a soil analyst, you gotta be a pathologist to know different things about the bugs and how things go. You got to be a whole lot of things to be able to farm.
We're the only people that pray for rain on 4th of July. That's what we want. We want fireworks to be canceled and bypassed for a few days. So, you know, you have all these weird hopes, you know, but it's just a little different. So it's fun though.
Willard Agri-Service never shied away from using technology in their business.
Dee looks long-term on everything he faces. There's no short-term thinking in Dee's life. He's always ahead of you by several years, thinking down the road, what is this going to look like 5 years from now? What does this policy do? What does that set of requirements play out long-term? It's all long-term.
We've always taken a really long-term view. A great example is all the stainless steel you see around here. We learned years and years ago, stainless steel is very expensive to buy, but if you're going to be in business for the long term, it's actually cheaper because everything else has a life. And I think we still have the first stainless we ever bought. So if you're willing to invest in the best up front, in the long term, it's cheap.
Willard has been on the leading edge of the adoption of all kinds of new technologies. You know, you go way back to the 70s and before, liquid fertilizers was something relatively new in the region. Willard's was a leader in keeping up to date and keeping their farmers up to date on the appropriate agricultural chemicals to use for different pests, different problems.
Willard's mandate to keep ahead of technology resulted in the creation of a new product to help farmers maximize yields and minimize environmental impact. HiQ.
HiQ is our decision support system. Basically collects farmers' data from when they plant to when they harvest. So all their inputs such as their seed, their fertilizer, date they planted, all these variables go into account when they harvest, and it comes up with a yield map from when they harvest, and it helps them make a better determination for the following year in terms of how that crop did. Something that Willard developed and then kind of expanded upon over the years. It has become a bigger part of our business. Basically, the more you know, the better you can make decisions in the future.
They have their values and goals posted on the wall. They talk about them all the time, and they let it drive their business. And anybody who is an employee of Willard Agri-Service will know full well that that's how they are expected to act.
I heard something recently I never thought of, and it's really true. It said, people do not leave because of the company, they leave because of their boss. Because no matter how good the company is, if their boss isn't the right person, that makes them feel like they're creating something, doing something worthwhile and comfortable with their job, they're not going to stay, no matter what the salary is.
It is a little bit out of step with large businesses in America. Dee does not envy large businesses. He just builds a business and makes it work.
Willard employees have a saying: do it right. Make investments for the long term, grow the business, and give good service to customers.
There are two things that I've learned from Dee over the last 40 years. One is to pay attention to the other leaders in the industry. The other thing that he does, he never changes his core values. And so you don't have to guess. That's a key ingredient to Willard. Dee has been able to, through the force of his personality, and now his sons, maintain this into a very profitable and growing business.
Early on, I didn't want any of them to come to work with me. I thought they could do something better with their life, but I didn't want them to think that's what they needed to do. And it wasn't that I didn't want them to follow, I wanted them to look at other options, because I did exactly what I wanted to do and exactly what they wanted to do, but it could be totally different. They might not want to be a doctor or a ditch digger or whatever. I couldn't say I've had any challenges. My kids have been so kind to me. I can't even talk about it. I'm sorry.
It's hard to let go.
Here's a guy that is using the land. He tills the land, but he has a love of the land and a spirit that I think is genuine and uniform, whether we're on the East Coast or in the middle of the country or on the West Coast. He has that same feel for the land and wants to produce and do a good job. If the dealer is interested in the farmer's well-being, he's interested. He wants him to be efficient and have a good return. And so we try to get product to him that do those things and take a genuine interest in every farmer that we have to make sure that we provide the best service that we can and get the most return for that farmer that we can. Those are our customers. In the meantime, we need to make an honest markup in our product. And the farmer has to understand that as well. We're not in it for the short term. We're in it for, with that farmer and with his children.
The technological changes brought by Willard and the industry have exponentially increased crop yields, helping to feed a hungry world.
I was 12 years old, got to ride on a wagon and straighten out bundles of wheat. And it took about 20 to 25 men for that operation to thrash wheat. And we would thrash maybe 800 bushel a day. This July, I rode down and rode in Scott with the combine one Saturday, and he was doing 1,000 bushel an hour. He was doing more in 1 hour than the 20-some people would do in a day. And we had 2 combines running, so we were doing 2,000 bushel an hour with 2 men driving the combines and 2 more men hauling the wheat away. And I mean, talk about a tremendous change and difference in labor time to produce a bushel of wheat is just astronomical.
While yields have consistently increased, the improving technology also allows for a more efficient use of agricultural chemicals.
We're using less fertilizer than we used to. For every pound of nitrogen, we're getting more corn out of it, and we're analyzing that, and we're fertilizing very specifically. So there's so many different things going on that in the future of agriculture, as people become more aware of where their food comes from, what we do becomes more important. So I think that the future of agriculture will be led by the folks like the Willards that'll push their growers to either work in conjunction in parallel or to follow their lead as we move forward into the next generation. That's hopefully going to be more greener, more sustainable, more aware of what's going on in the environment, which then kind of helps farmers to do the same.
After 50 years, Willard Agri-Service's dedication to customers and to their employees has never been stronger. What started with one farm has grown into a business operating in 6 Mid-Atlantic states and with clients around the world.
That first crop of corn I planted, I got 30 bushels to the acre. And the day this year with very limited rainfall, we're harvesting, where we're harvesting right now today, I didn't ask Scott earlier, but I'm sure it's 200 bushel or maybe a little bit more. Makes us more able to feed all the hungry people in the world, and we're doing it with much less labor and much less acres of ground.
He cared about his customers, and he wanted them to have success with what he sold them. And I marvel at how he's been able to hold the fertilizer business together like he has out here in this area when the land development is so rampant and has consumed a lot of the agriculture land.
I don't know that if Dee had a preconceived notion of the size of business he wanted when he started. I'm not aware of that. I think he just showed up for work every day, did what was necessary, and at the end of the day, if he had some money left over after paying his people and his expenses, I think he was satisfied.
I think we're going to continue to be innovators in the industry and continue to be at the forefront of technology in agriculture.
My brother and I love what we do. We love the industry, we love the people, we love the employees, and we want to keep doing what we're doing. We're having fun.
Fun. And the desire to help farmers and their families has always been at the forefront of the Willard mission. Willard has always used the latest technology to meet that mission. But it is not just the technology that defines the company. It's their ethos, which has not changed in 50 years.
Do it right and be good to the employee and the customer while you're doing it.
People deal with people. People don't deal with companies. But it taught me that personal relationships are critical to be successful.